No worries, man. Sorry to hang you up before.
Nope, that's it. Here we go. Hello, Global Theater. My name is Jerry Fielka. Today is April 27, 2025. I want to thank Rob Grant and his amazing podcast. I'm probably wrong about everything. It's an honor and a pleasure to be here with Paul Litteral today. Where in the heck are you calling in from, Paul?
From the canals. I'm down here in my place at the canals.
The Venice Canals. How cool is that? The first question is, what is the best thing for a human being?
Oh, wow. You asked a really easy questions, Jerry. Uh,
Well, we're here to have
uh,
fun. So,
to do
however,
what you're to do what you love and make it your job.
yeah, that's great. What's your favorite form of information, how it comes into you?
Uh, well, I like now like that you can stream your news and stuff. I like that a lot better than seems like a lot of times talking heads when they're reporting it tend to want to become involved and put their own spin on things. So I'd rather get it, straight copy from the streaming service.
Why do you think humans collect or gather information?
Because we're hunter gatherers.
Do you think this need or want is more innate in us or more invented?
It's innate.
Yeah. Do thoughts create emotions?
Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah. Well, fill in the blank, Paul. I don't know what I think until
I don't know what I think until I think.
That's good. Can humans think without language?
I don't know. Can you hear a tree when it falls in the forest?
Yeah, well, that's it. You're answering a question. You're answering a question with a question. You win. That's what this series is all about, inventing new questions.
All right, cool.
So Chomsky says that, language is not just words. It's a culture, a tradition, a community that tells us what we're all about. What do you do, Paul, when language doesn't work? When language breaks down, what do you do?
I disengage until there's a new opportunity to come in and make it work.
Yeah. Very good. So, your observations of humans in general, are we more thinking beings or more feeling beings?
I don't think we're thinking. I think this last election proved we don't think.
Yeah. Hello. George Clinton nailed it. He said, think it ain't illegal yet.
Right, but we don't seem to want to think.
Yeah.
We seem to have herd mentality.
Yes. Well, these are two questions from Alan Turing in the 50s. Is thinking a function of the soul?
Yes. Yes, it is.
And then the second one is, can machines think?
They're getting there.
Yeah. Do you more pursue happiness or more pursue meaning?
Happiness.
Well, I got the questions from Viktor Frankl, his book called Man's Search for Meaning. He says happiness doesn't tend to last, meaning does. What do you think of that?
Well, I think happiness isn't meant to like last, so you can. Otherwise, we get bored with it. You know what I mean? It's like if it was always there.
Yeah.
So it's a nice thing when it does come around.
Yeah. Does the brain more detect consciousness or create it? Like, is consciousness there bubbling away and we're more so detecting it or more so creating it?
I think it's a creative thing.
Yeah. What's faster, speed of light or speed of thought?
Speed of dark.
Now you really get it, Paul. We're here to have fun, and I'm all for. It's like me and you versus the wording on the question. So if people
Right.
if people change the noun or the verb, I'm all for that. If you say, I don't know, I can't answer that, that's fine. And I'm also welcome tangents, stories, and anecdotes. So
All
this
right,
is,
very good.
yeah, this is Audre Lorde, the poet. You can't dismantle the master's house using the master's tools. Her colleague, Yvonne Rainer, said, oh, you can if you expose the tools. What new tool do you suggest?
Uh, well, it's really an old tool of going out into the world and, experiencing things,
Yeah.
every day, even small things.
Yeah. Well, that's good. Again, you got it because you put it in the context you want. It doesn't have to be a new tool. What you talked about there to me is what's called direct experience.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, same question on a toy. What toy do you gravitate towards, or what new toy do you suggest?
Oh, uh, hmm. New toy. What new toy do I suggest? Gee, I don't know. I mean, we already have computers and everything. Um, yeah, I don't know how to answer that, Jer. You got
No
me.
worries. No worries. What do you worry about when you go to bed at night?
Uh, waking up.
Yeah. So,
Uh,
no, that's good. We're going to get into music eventually after we do a few more of these philosophical
if I
guys.
pass this test, I'll get into music. Right?
No. It's not a big deal. I just sort of get people's backgrounds first, and then we get into their main calling. But this is Marshall McLuhan learned from a poet, Ezra Pound, that artists, musicians are the antenna of the race. They're broadcasting and detecting the hidden psychic effects of our inventions, so we might learn how to cope with what we don't like about our inventions. So, Paul, I asked you the question Marshall probed his whole career. Why do we ignore the hidden psychic effects of our inventions, even though the artists are broadcasting them to us?
Because people are basically in fear.
Yeah.
And if it's something they don't understand, they fear it and they don't
Yeah.
want to deal with it.
Do artists have moral obligation?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
Well, are you more afraid of new ideas or more afraid of old ideas?
Neither.
Yeah, that's good. So, can you conjure up your earliest memory ever or one of them?
Oh, going barefoot at my grandmother's in the summer.
Wow. Is memory more a curse or more a blessing?
It's both.
Yeah. Tell me someone within your immediate family who had an impact on you, and what specifically was that impact?
My immediate family. My grandmother.
What
She
it what
helped
it
launch. She helped launch me into trumpet. Really.
really? Wow. Good. We'll get into music soon. So, the same question outside your immediate family, Paul. Someone who had an impact on you, and what was that impact?
My high school band director,
What'd you get from him?
and he helped set me on a path to refine my playing.
Nice. What high school was that?
Ohio County High in Kentucky. I
Wow.
was born there.
What city in Kentucky?
A small town called, well, I was born in Owensboro, which is a pretty big city. And then uh, I grew up in a small town called Beaver Dam, which is 2,000 happy people and a few soreheads.
Wow.
And fought my way out. Uh, every man in my family, but me, were coal miners underground.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So, did your
But
parents
hey,
raise?
one little tidbit though.
Please.
Where I grew up in Kentucky, I lived 4 miles away from Bill Monroe.
Oh my God,
Yep, yep.
that's pretty cool.
So you
So,
can see though why I left though, because
yeah.
there's not a lot of call for a trumpet in a bluegrass band. It's just just don't do it.
Well, did your parents raise you a particular religion?
I'm you know hardcore. They tried hardcore Southern Baptist. That didn't take. I
Do
just
you
wasn't meant for that.
do you pray?
Sometimes, yeah.
If God exists, Paul, what would you like God to say to you after you die?
Uh, you gave it a good shot, kid.
Yeah. Do evil people exist, or does evil use people as a vehicle?
No, evil people exist.
Well, here's the hidden question, really, Paul, is how do you advise someone to deal with an enemy? I'll set it up. A few modern thinkers, Alan Watts says, if you acknowledge your enemy, you empower them. Coppola
True.
Coppola stole from the mob and the samurai, keep your friends close and your enemies closer. JFK said, forgive your enemy, but don't forget their name. And Fellini says, I need an enemy. So it's a lot of thoughts. The basic question is, how do you advise someone to deal with an enemy? But first, how would you respond to Alan Watts? If you acknowledge your enemy, you empower them.
I agree with that
Yeah,
totally. But I think that, you know, can't have light without dark, yin and yang, it's going to happen.
yeah,
It's the endless struggle, day, night, and so it's part of life.
yeah. But this is Nassim Taleb saying games were created to give non heroes the illusion of winning. In real life, we don't know who wins or loses, but we can tell who a hero is. Gregory Bateson says if the criminal gets caught, does he go, whoa, my criminal skills weren't up to snuff that day? Or does he um, literally say, oh, I did something morally and socially wrong? So again, it's a lot of prompts, but the basic question is, does punishment work?
Mm, sometimes.
Yeah.
Depends on how you administer the punishment. And if you give an exit, from the highway that you're punishing them on, you know what I mean? They have to have a goal, so to rehabilitate or to change. And if you don't give that goal to do it, then they're going to improve their skills.
That is really a good observation. Give them a goal. That's rehabilitation. So James Joyce was the first projectionist in Dublin 100 years ago. He basically checked out. He said, this is stupid. Why should I go inside a building and see a movie of a tree when I can go outside and see a real tree? Years later, Faulkner said sometimes the best fiction is more true than journalism. Why do we have to recreate things in order to get them? Why do we have to go to a theatrical play of people acting out life? Why don't we just live life?
When something's there every day, you don't notice it as much.
Yeah,
How's that?
that's really good, man. You're concise and articulate, Paul. This is now where you brought up your grandmother. Where's the tipping point in your life where you said music is my calling? I mean, are you going to high school and taking music classes because your parents said to do an instrument, or you picked it up? Just walk
I
us through that process.
first started in, they used to have chorus in like first, second, third grade, fourth grade. And then fourth grade, the chorus teacher came in. She had flashcards, and she was saying, next year, you guys could take band if you want to. What instrument would interest you to play? And they went through all the flashcards. And when they got to trumpet, I said, that's it. That's what I want to play. And so then when I got the trumpet the next year and started band, I probably knew I was going to be a professional musician at 15. I knew I
Wow.
was really going to try, and so I really had to bear down. I mean, when you're in Kentucky in the sticks, you got to really want to get out, man. You got to really stay on it to get out. So I did. That's
So
exactly what I
wait,
did.
Paul, go back. Why do you think what's the gut feeling why you picked trumpet out of the other cards?
I think when I was really little, like my first memories of staying with my grandmother were we'd watch TV together, and she liked to watch variety shows, and there was always like the Hollywood Palace or Ed Sullivan and stuff like that, and they always had like trumpet players on occasionally, really great trumpet players, and so and I watched a lot of Louis Armstrong, when I was very young, and that sort of kicked it off. And then as I grew up, I discovered other trumpet players, and they influenced me. And I really like the instrument. It's really hard, but I really enjoyed it.
But at age 15, you go, I'm going to be a professional. Are then do you enter college or did you go to college on
No, no,
studying?
I got offers from like four colleges to scholarship, but my school turned out pretty good brass players, and everyone that went on to college quit playing after a year because it was too hard to keep up with the studies and music. So I decided, how can I get paid to play? So I went and auditioned for the Navy School of Music, and they flew me to Chicago. I auditioned and I got accepted, and the rest is history. I took off there. I was at the school. I was in the student lab band. I made it to that. That's like the best players in the school formed this big band, and this master chief was running it. And at the end of the year, we do this concert where they have like guest performers and all that, but then the lab band plays, and at the end you're being scouted by all the fleet bands and DC. And I got offered to go to DC, but I'd have to go to Annapolis and sign up for 20 years, and I wasn't really a military guy. So I said, and they said, well, you can pick your duty station, and I said New York. So I was stationed in New York, and that's where I began. Like, really, my master classes of going across. I go to the Vanguard. I go hear anybody I could over in Manhattan on the weekends, and when I had days off, and took private lessons. That's really what got it going. So that it was a smooth transition. When I got
Right.
out of the Navy, I went right into like, my first thing was a bus and truck, and then I ended up on Broadway after that for 4 years, and then I started my rock and roll career and all that.
Wow. So who was your private lesson people that had an impact on you? Was there any?
My first teacher there was Ray Crisera. Ray was he was in Toscanini's orchestra when he was 18. He was one of those guys. And my second teacher was Benny Goodman's lead trumpet player, Jimmy Maxwell. I don't know if you know. You probably remember him a little bit. He did a lot of Dixieland stuff too, and um, he worked for a big promoter that used to do jazz festivals all over. Norman Grant's maybe. What's his name? I can't think of his name right now. Anyway, but he used to tour all over the world and all over America every year with that guy doing concerts.
So those were your two main early teachers.
Yeah, I mean, when I was like, 18. Before that, my teacher in high school was my band director, and that was
Yeah.
it.
Beautiful. Now, Paul, you're a composer as well, because I know I booked you at Sponto Gallery years ago playing your music. You played in a lot of great bands from Iggy to the Stones and on and on. A screenwriting teacher told me a great art is when you can clearly see the intention of the maker. Stanley Kubrick says the opposite. Great art is when you can clearly not see the intention of the maker. When you're writing a Paul composition, not for commission, just on your own, you're writing a Paul song. What role does intention play in your creative process?
That's a hard one because it's easier if I wrote like when I was in the Uptown Horns, we wrote songs for when I was in Buster Poindexter's band, we wrote songs for his album couple
Yeah.
albums, and then we wrote for Albert Collins on his album after Cold Snap, which was
Yeah.
one of my favorite blues albums I ever played on.
Yeah.
Uh, um, and when you have direction and intent, it's easier to write when you
Yeah.
have to go to yourself. That's why, like when I do my solo records, I often don't do my own compositions. I try to reimagine a little bit, like songs that are familiar, because familiarity will get a person to listen a little longer sometimes. And so I try to do that now. I did that on my last album, and now I'm working on my new album. I've got like, 6 tracks into it right now.
Beautiful. So Duchamp said there's no art without an audience. When you're composing your music or reimagining a classic tune, how much are you thinking of your audience?
Oh, I try to think of like if they'd like this or if they wouldn't like this. I mean, you know what? I got to say now, it's different than when we were younger, that we really, it's like when we were young, you had to engage and want to go see things or want to go and do things. And we really made an effort to do that, to be someplace, to hang out, to seek out music or seek out art of all types. Now that we have it by our fingertips, we can hear it anytime we want. There seems to be a lack of like, oh, it's just too hard to push the button. You know what I mean? To get it
Yeah.
sometimes. It's hard to get them to engage and come out. And like I said, to get back to what I was saying before, that's why I try to do something that's a little more familiar. Although the music I do will be familiar to you and would be familiar to anybody that's over 40, but it's not familiar to the youth. It's totally brand new. And I
Yeah.
like to reintroduce things like that so that
Yeah.
not only can they listen to my version, but they could go hear the original artist and like get familiar with that stuff, you know?
Really good.
There's one thing I want to say is like, I think there was a conscious effort in the 80s by the big corporations, music business, to destroy systematically
Yeah.
and like totally get control of music all over again, like it was before the Beatles.
Yeah.
The Beatles totally messed them up. They didn't know what the hell to do with anything for like 40 years after the Beatles.
Yeah.
And then they finally got it back to the old Brill building, and we'll tell you what to do and we'll tell you where to be and all that. No matter that it's like, contemporary urban now, which I dig, and I dig like the whole like art of like rap and rhyme and all of that. I dig that, but I think it still has a niche of like there's some tremendous rap, and then there's stuff that's like bling and girls and cars and and stuff like that. That's
Yeah.
like very youthful. Let me say that.
No, I understand. It's in fact how Frank Zappa was on TV once. And they asked him about the music business, and it was probably in reaction to exactly what you were saying, where the 80s they gained control. And he said in the 60s,
Right after the 80s. The 80s was wide open. Remember
okay,
that's when you had all those indie labels.
yeah,
Indie
okay,
labels ruled.
yeah, after the 80s. So check this out. They asked him, he said, in the 60s, you would take your demo to the record executive and he'd go, I don't know. He's chomping on his cigar and he'd go, I don't know. Give it to Joey in the mail room and ask him if it's any good. So then
That's true.
it was more grounded and rootsy. Then in the time you're talking, Frank said they would go to the accountant and say, what's the demographics on this fucking shit? So can we sell grunge to the rest of the world?
The bean counters took over, and that
Yeah.
was where the mistake was made.
Yeah.
I don't think you can judge art by bean counters. I don't think that can be done, Jerry.
Yeah. It's really good. So we're going to get into music, and here's the first one. McLuhan says everything we invent extends some humanness, like knife and fork extends your teeth, shutter and a camera. extend your eyelid. Maybe non-tangible, even say religion or philosophy might extend consciousness. What does the trumpet extend for you? What humanness?
Um, it's the primal scream,
Yeah,
the shouting loud enough that people can hear you.
that's
Because let me say
beautiful.
this: you miss a note on trumpet, everybody knows it.
Dude, that is a great answer. The primal scream, because if you haven't seen this new film, it got nominated for an Oscar. It's called Soundtrack to the Coup d'etat. And look
Oh
it up.
no,
We'll go out of your way because it's all about the CIA and all these bad guys killing these people in Africa. But the whole basis is Lee Morgan, Dizzy, and in the scream at the end is by Abby Lincoln. She's playing with her husband, Max Roach, and
oh well,
it makes you jump out of your seat. It is not jazz singing. It is a primal scream. And it is like
wow,
they're killing us. But
right,
it's in the setting of a jazz show. So
right.
it's really beautiful. You got that so well. You understood. So what's the function of music?
To make life easier for us.
Yeah, that's really good. Make life easier. That's Susie's partner, Storm and Norman says, to keep us from going insane.
This is true, man.
But there are a couple others I want to just tell you that I've done in surveying musicians over the last 40 years. John Cage said it's to soothe the soul and make it susceptible for divine intervention.
I think that's true. Or you know what? Like I think a lot of it, like if you go back to like, when Stravinsky did the Rite of Spring, and
Yeah,
it caused a riot.
yeah.
So it's to stir emotion.
Stir
So
emotion. Stir
you know what I
emotion.
mean?
One. Yeah,
Sometimes the emotion is beautiful, it's love, it's tenderness,
yeah.
it's everything. Sometimes the emotion is anger.
Amazing, because that was the second one I have on my list is Mickey Hart, the Grateful Dead drummer. He said, you hit the log to tell them it's a warning. They're coming to steal our food. So it
Right.
could. And then Dylan Buston says a great too. He says the function of music is to get people to dance.
True. Was in the 80s.
Yeah.
Wasn't it? Wasn't it? What was in the 80s? Fuck art, let's dance.
I like David Moss too. David Moss said the function of music is the sound of being alive.
True that.
Yeah. So here we go. This is Ruth Draper. The key is to bring the audience up onto the stage and into the scene with you. It is they who must give you even more than you give them in the way of imagination and creative power. That sounds good, but how do you do that, Paul?
I don't know. A lot of social media. It's hard to pull them away from Netflix, man. You know.
But I mean,
Uh,
you played with some of the greats, Iggy and the Stones. How did they bring the audience up onto the stage with them? I mean, metaphorically, how do you engage the audience?
myself now especially, I try to uh, intersperse little things where I talk to the audience or tease with the audience just a little,
Yeah,
and then but I try to always get back into the music. But if I can just pull them in with a little joke or something to make them
yeah,
chuckle, and then start, it seems like they get more engaged.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Leonard Cohen said the only way you can sell a concert is if you put yourself at risk. And if you don't do that, people know. What
Oh
role does
yeah.
what role does risk play in your creative process?
It's a big one. It's 85%.
Well, that's interesting because what does courage mean to you now?
And courage is the other. What is it? I don't know, 15, 20% or whatever.
Oh, is the other 15%? Because I spoke with Napoleon Murphy Brock, who sang with Zappa for many years, and he said, I leave risk in the dressing room. So, I mean, at most,
No, that's I think that's impossible. I mean,
really,
if he can do it, God bless him. But
yeah,
like, it's impossible.
yeah,
That's
because
impossible.
but you come out and you have confidence. So is that what he's
I
talking
exude confidence inside. I'm dying in here. All
about?
right. And it's like, it's total fear.
I'm dying
And
in
it's
here.
like, and for years, I dealt with stage fright. And like, from reading books and reading about other artists, big artists, a lot of them, and playing with some too, that had tremendous stage fright, like Joe Cocker, for instance, right? Used to
Yeah,
throw up before he goes on stage.
yeah,
He was that in fear, and I've noticed I've heard it in certain books from other great classical artists, great jazz artists. I mean, Tom Harrell hides behind a speaker and shakes when he plays, but that doesn't diminish his art. But he's terrified, so he's overcoming terror. You
wow,
know, you know. So I think it's it, and we have various degrees of terror in all of us when we do stuff like that.
yeah,
Now I have learned so far up to this point to like really get a handle on it where I'm not as nervous when I play now
yeah,
that as I used to be.
yeah. But that's in how many years have you basically been playing?
Since I was 18 professionally.
Yeah. And how old are you now?
Oh man, too old. It's me and dirt.
But you're 6 decades playing, would you say?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Okay,
But you know
so
what's good about it?
yeah.
I'm playing right now probably the best I've ever played in my entire life. I
Yeah.
have more ability now than I've ever had in my entire life. And I think experience gives that to you. It
Yeah.
just depends on if you take care of your body well enough to
Yeah.
be able to like let it out
Yeah.
at an older age. But I think that's the one thing now that I'm applauding our generation about
Yeah.
is that we're not going down as easy as our parents did.
Yeah.
Our
But
parents
that's
gave in.
yeah, no, no, Paul, that's amazing because I was just gonna say longevity is more, in your opinion, lifestyle choice or more DNA? I know it's both, but do you have a little hunch it's a little more one or the other?
I think it's a lifestyle choice, and I think it helps keep you motivated and younger
Yeah.
in the way you approach things. Because you know what, it's the carrot in front of the jackass. If you want him to walk, put the carrot out in front of him. He's going to chase the carrot. We need a
Yeah.
carrot to chase. We all
Yeah.
need a carrot to keep us going.
Yeah. It's good. When the health food came in the 60s, we told my dad, Dad, don't eat that. It has preservatives in it. And he goes, I need all the preservatives I can get.
You get it right.
and, he,
Absolutely.
and he lived till he's like 95. So, but I think that's DNA too. But this is this goes along with it. Viola Spolin, she's a social worker in Chicago, and she helped invent comedy improv by doing role playing exercises. And
Right.
she said, if the audience cannot see your struggle to achieve something, they cannot root for you to achieve it. What role
That's
does
true.
what role does struggle play in your creative process?
Oh, 60%.
I love it. You know how to break it down. But this is you again, it's back to that confidence, and now you're playing, the best you can. This is going to now the elements of music, the building blocks. Copeland said the four ingredients are melody, harmony, rhythm, and tone color. To the normal person on the street, how would you describe what is tone color?
Uh, Tone color is like the roundness of the tone coming out, or what's you're presenting to them through like the draw of a string, or the note on a trumpet, or the note on a saxophone. It's that one thing that you hear that goes beyond just tone. You
Yeah.
feel you can really go into their soul. They're letting their soul out through that note. You know what I
Wow.
mean? Like Miles, you
Yeah.
could recognize certain guys with one note. You could
Oh my God. You,
recognize them.
you you anticipated one of our questions almost word for word. So it's coming up, but I'll tell you when. That was amazing what you just said, because what I'd like to know, Paul, is how do you integrate, or do you focus on melody, harmony, rhythm, and tone color? What's your sort of ritual process of the integration of the four?
I do this in practice. I work on my you know uh, the attack. I work on my breath control. I work on all of that. I play a certain little melody over and over a portion of a song I'm going to do or whatever, and I try to get that ingrained in me, and then I can release my emotions into it. And then once it actually hits the audience, when I'm actually performing, it's second nature. It's something you don't have to think about.
But that's melody. How about harmony, rhythm, and tone color? How do you approach those? Or how?
Harmony, it's like me, harmony, that's based on more of like writing and theory and putting together process.
Yeah,
Harmony. Uh, uh, Rhythm is it's wide open, whatever you want it to be.
yeah. And then what
You
about
know,
tone? Yeah,
tone is what you practice to get there.
you practice. That's amazing. So my friend says the three T's of music are technique, theory, and taste. So technique, you've learned how to play. Theory, you know the structure. How does one acquire taste?
Listening.
Yeah,
Listen to everything before you.
yeah,
You have to listen and imitate, and then you have to let go of imitation and then try to play the same thing they did, but play it like you want to play it and
yeah.
make it your own. That's the only way to do it.
Yeah, well, dude, that sounds good, really, because that's Harold Bloom anxiety of influence. Absorb your influence, then abandon them. Yeah, that sounds like.
Absolutely.
How do you do that? I mean, everybody's just a clone of their teacher eventually, but there's the few that
Well,
break.
even the greats, all the greats stole from the people before them,
Yeah,
but they managed to make something they did
yeah,
innately themselves.
yeah,
And then that became you could notice it every time they stepped on stage.
yeah.
No
That's
matter if they
amazing.
were poets, writers,
Yeah,
whatever, musicians, it doesn't matter, painters, you knew who that was. As soon as you looked at it, heard it, saw
yeah.
them, whatever, you know?
Yeah, that's Jean Cocteau had a great line. He said, take your first piece of art or composition, and then you get your feedback from your family and your friends and your teachers, and they go, oh, that was really good, but you got to do work on this or that. Whatever they criticize you, exploit that for the rest of your career.
Right.
Like, because you don't want to become a clone of, you're you don't want to be a wannabe, and there's so
Do you
much of
know,
this.
who suffered from that the worst of anybody? And I worked
Who?
with him in the 80s, was
Who?
David Sanborn. David Sanborn.
Oh God, yes.
When
Yeah.
David Sanborn came out on Young Americans,
Yeah.
it's like he totally like took the alto saxophone market by storm. And that guy was sincere in what he did and
Yeah.
soulful the way he
Yeah.
played. And
Yeah.
I can't tell you how many goddamn alto saxophones tried to sound like him and even hold their horn like him. And he had polio. That's why he held the horn like that. And it's like it was like disgusting. And they
Yeah.
actually killed his career by like totally imitating him.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I get upset about that because I
No,
just think
I understand
that's
because
the worst thing in the world.
no, I have problems. It's like David Sanborn. I don't want people to sound like David Sanborn, but in the long run, you just watch Night Music, that show he hosted, and he came out of, King Curtis, and he came out of the greats, but
Well, he was in the Gil Evans Orchestra
right.
in
He was
'72. You know,
no, he's amazing, but that's what happened is it did a feedback loop and then everybody sound like him, so he got blamed. And it's like, "Oh no, don't sound like that." And it's like, yeah,
right?
that's
Yeah,
amazing.
don't blame the messenger, man.
But here's Paul, back to the word taste. This is
Okay.
McLuhan. McLuhan said song is slowed down speech. The reason cultures have different musical tastes is ultimately connected to language difference. Any thoughts on that?
I think that's true. Although I think different parts of the world listen differently for some reason. Remember, like during the beginning of the jazz age, how
Yeah,
big Europe was in that?
yeah,
France like really helped so many artists and jazz players and classical musicians as well, and they seem to appreciate it more there, like they did in France and Italy, Germany, Spain,
yeah,
the Eastern Bloc countries when they could get records.
yeah,
Japan, every place else. Here, they don't seem to want to read liner notes, or they didn't. Remember, the first records in the '60s had no liner notes in the back listing who played on what on
yeah,
whatever it was. It was
yeah,
just some patter about the artist and the piece, and I think that it's just weird that they have made it so that, and now even more so, convince people they don't have to listen, or they're trying to take them back to the '50s, but with a 21st century like toys that they have, special
yeah,
media, Fox News, blah blah blah.
yeah. Amazing. So,
Create the narrative.
yeah, what's more fundamental, language or music?
Probably languages.
Yeah.
Yeah, music is harder to get to.
That's interesting because studying James Joyce, there's theories that he was scared by thunder, and some, anthropologists say that that could have been how humans invented language, by imitating thunder or hearing thunder. And
Right.
it's interesting how, because the other one, this is a wild idea, but it's called biomimicry. Like the person who invented Velcro saw it in plants. And so we just imitated it. And so we imitate nature. Like, did we
Right.
see a beaver making a dam and then go, oh, we can make dams? So did humans imitate birds, or is it the other way around? Humans were whistling and the birds heard us and mimicked us.
I think it goes both ways.
That's
Like
good.
mockingbirds mimic us.
Yeah.
Mockingbirds can do that. But I
Yeah.
think birds had their own song well before we started wandering into the forest, you
Yeah.
know.
Tell me an instrumental that makes you laugh.
Hmm. An instrumental that makes me laugh. That's a tough one, Jerry. You ask hard questions, man.
Well, you
Hold
knock
on,
it
hold
out
on.
of the park, man. That primal scream, I don't think anyone will ever beat that one. But I mean, it's the phenomenon, Paul, is basically, don't we laugh because it's something language wise? So how could music? It's sort of like back to Igor Stravinsky. Stravinsky said music means nothing. He did lectures. Well, no, we put verbal language, when before humans had verbal language, They were
Right.
making music. They were making music.
Yeah, they were doing sounds and
They were
stuff. Yeah.
doing sounds. And so, that could have been out jazz or it could have been nice melodies. We don't know.
Right.
But I'm just
Right.
saying, to
It was
think,
probably more like it was probably more like first used as a telegraph.
yeah. But
You
again,
know.
how could us music make you laugh when it has no words?
Right. Well, the song I makes me happy and smile when I put it on my first record was "Hard Times." Ray Charles,
Yeah,
David Fathead Newman's song.
yeah.
Uh, I really enjoyed that one. Just makes me smile. It's just
But
so
but that's not instrumental, is it?
yeah,
Oh, Hard Times is an instrumental.
yeah. David
Oh,
Fathead Newman wrote it, but Ray Charles. It was performed in the Ray Charles orchestra.
well, that's a great example because happy or laugh, that's good. So here is let's go into Monk said silence is the loudest sound in the universe. How do you know how to incorporate silence into your playing and into your compositions and not, playing?
It's
How
an
does
it's an emotion that's spurred by the song you're playing, by the chords you hear, by
yeah,
what the bass player does, what the drummer does. If you hear him do something and you feel like pause to let it come out and then to step back in after it's spontaneous. It's not something planned usually.
but even in composition, sometimes, this Awiwi, the artist, said silence is music. Is silence a building block of music?
Well, I guess when you have silence, you have the music of your surroundings.
Yeah,
Something's filling it up. Some noise is filling it up, whether it's a bird song, whether it's thunder,
yeah,
whether it's wind, no matter
yeah,
what, something's coming through. Traffic,
yeah. That's
right?
it. George Clinton said funk is the absence of. It's like not playing. How do you know when not to play? But here's one more I wanted to ask you about silence. Thomas Carlyle, he said, speech is of time, silence is of eternity.
Yes, yes, yes. I agree with that.
Yeah. And here's well, the other thing I love about Monk is what a great Venice artist Duggo taught me. He said that Monk heard all the notes Charlie Parker heard, but only decided to play some of them.
That's true. That's true. And he decided to make some of it clunky.
Well, that's an
You know,
example. Yeah, clunky is a good word because I think Monk's music is clunky, but I think it's funny. Like some of his instrumentals make
oh,
me
I
laugh.
think he had a sense. I think he had a real sense of humor
Yeah,
in his playing.
yeah,
And remember if you look at some of the old YouTubes of the concerts they did when a saxophone player was playing and he was starting to get happy on the music, he'd get up and by the side of the piano and start to shuffle. Remember that?
oh yeah, he spins around. That's what epistrophe is what turning
Yeah,
in circles. Yeah.
yeah.
No, he was an amazing composer and player. But this is
Thank God those guys had the Duchess,
yeah. Oh yeah.
or they would have been lost,
Yeah.
totally lost,
Yeah.
and gone in just a few short years.
Yeah.
But the Duchess really helped them keep them alive.
Yep. And you anticipated this question, Paul, a while back, and I appreciate it. You got ESP. This is Ben Ratliff. He wrote a book on Bill Frisell, and he said, I mean sound as it has long functioned among jazz players as a mystical term of art, as in every musician finally needs a sound, a full and sensible embodiment of their artistic personality such that it can be heard at best in a single note. So me and you can hear Miles and go, that's Miles. And
Yeah.
what Ben did was reduce it down to 2 words. He said, Miles, fragile and pointed. Coltrane, slightly undercooked and urgent. If a
Yeah.
music writer who you really respect was going to summarize Paul's sound in 2 words, what 2 words would you go, hey, they got me?
Man, that's tough. I really haven't. I haven't thought of that. Uh, uh, Deliberate.
Deliberate, that's
Uh,
good. What's another one?
Soulful.
Oh, that's perfect, man. I love it. Okay, let's go on to time in music. Why is
Oh
four
man.
why is 4/4 time the most commonly used time signature in Western music?
Oh, it's probably easy to walk to.
I get that. That's it. Wayne Pete told me that. He said we have 2 hands and we have 2 feet, and 2 legs. And so that's I want to get deeper into this. Besides being intuitive and easy, it might be because it's in sync with walking or marching. But
Yeah,
say it's in sync with our heartbeat rhythm. What do you
could be
think?
unless we have an extra beat,
Yeah, but what do you
and
think?
then we're Don Ellis.
Oh, what he wrote in what?
Like he wrote in like 2213 and 7/4 and 5/4 and
Yeah.
yeah, because he was in. I think he was influenced by Bulgarian music,
Oh, was
which is
he?
different. Yeah, different metrical beats than
Yeah.
we have over here.
Well, for
So
Zappa, he loved the Bulgarian women's choir, and he's always written in
I'm
various.
sure he did. I'm sure he did.
Yeah, he wrote in various. But I'd love for you to respond to Captain Beefheart said that he wanted to vary from the 4/4 time, the mama heartbeat. He said that that same old 4/4 rhythm is related to fascism. It's so fixative and
You
so
mean like
hip.
Wagner? Wait a minute.
Well,
Uh,
he didn't bring up Wagner, but here's let me just finish because you're anticipating. He said it's so fixative and so hypnotic and so synthesized, it's dangerous to the heart, faster than the heart, like disco is dangerous. Beefheart wanted to create non-hypnotic music to break us out of the canatonic state.
he needs a good chorus. You better have a good chorus if you're going to break them out of the hypnotic state.
Yeah. So here's
If you're talking about the Doors, it's "Light My Fire." Come on,
yeah,
baby, light my fire. That woke everybody up.
yeah,
Break on through to the other side. That woke everybody up.
yeah,
Those are good choruses.
yeah. No, that's it's great to hear this. And I love to break down music with you because it's really in a phenomenon. Now, one more music question I have, Paul, is in 1969 on LA Free Press asked Frank Zappa about Pauline Oliveros. She does deep listening. She played the accordion and her work with sound above the audible and below, creating a mass. And what Frank Zappa said was not that it created a mass, it created something audible. It produced a sum indifference tone, which happened to be located within the audible frequency range. So, by combining something so high you couldn't hear it and so low you couldn't hear it, it yields something in the middle you could hear. Whether you liked what you heard in the middle is another question. The concept is brilliant. So, any thoughts on this
Right.
sum indifference tone? This creating in the audible frequency range.
Uh, I think you have to use different frequencies to different things, and sometimes different uh, frequency ranges in the same song
Yeah,
to make your point across, or to create like certain emotions that you want the audience to feel. It's
yeah,
definitely important to have different frequency ranges. But I
yeah,
think the average listener doesn't want to be shouted at from the beginning. So
yeah,
to be more in the middle of this of your register is probably better at first.
yeah,
You know what I mean?
yeah. And it leads to like soloing when you're improvising. You know, I've talked to many musicians. Don Preston says, don't think. And it reminds me when I worked with George Carlin, we got a flyer. It says, I'm trying to get more control over my spontaneity. It's like, yeah, right.
Right,
Well,
right.
if Monk is right and music is math, how do you not think? How do you abandon all these licks in your head and you go, I'm not going to think? What's that process of really getting into improvisation and not just, you know, going through the Rolodex of your licks?
Well, yeah, I think the thing is to when you practice the Rolodex of your licks and chords and scales and everything else involved with making music and soloing, that when you get into the soloing process, you have to listen and give yourself over to the piece, and then just see where that takes you and what it ideas it creates it on the spot. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? And that's and that's very difficult because it involves you not being afraid.
Boy,
So
it's
that you can,
back to that fear thing. That's
yeah,
amazing.
fear is a big thing, man. Fear is a big thing in everything,
Yep.
I
Yep.
think.
Yeah. Well, I spoke with Michael Apted about 40 years ago. I asked him, why do rock video editors feel so obliged to edit fast? Most people don't know Abel Gance invented rapid montage in 1922, but it flourished in the 80s with MTV to the point where Marty Scorsese says, I cut my films faster because of MTV. Well, Michael Apted said, because we've learned to take in information faster. So I asked this question with a bias, Paul. Can we literally learn to take in information faster, or are we just brainwashed to believe we can?
Well, I think we can. I mean, now I think that, with the kids, well, from it started a while ago when video games came in.
Yeah,
You had little motifs of songs in each video game that kids would recognize, and they know what video game just from what the song is, like Super Mario
yeah,
or Zelda or whatever it is at
yeah,
that point when it was in the younger stages of video games. And I think that got them into, like, they only listen to they have a short attention span. So
yeah.
you got to get them in in that amount of time. And then hopefully make a song more interesting through what I call ear candy
Ear
that makes
candy.
them want to listen to the whole thing.
Yeah. But is it the really hidden question, Paul, is it literally possible for humans to multitask?
Yeah, but they might have an accident.
They might have an accident. Is
Yeah,
that
they're
what
driving and
you,
texting, right?
yeah, yeah, that's like don't drink and drive. You might hit a bump
Yeah,
and
don't
spill
drink and text.
your drink. Well, Paul, what do you think was the motive of the cave artists, the cave musicians, and the cave dancers? What was their motive?
What they saw,
Yeah,
what they heard.
yeah. What's more important, conviction or compromise?
Conviction.
You've accomplished a lot. How do you rate these three elements? In your accomplishments, luck, skill, and ambition, what played the biggest role, second and third?
Hmm. Well, before you get the luck, you have to have the skill.
Yeah.
And before you get the skill, you have to have ambition.
Wow. That's Gary Player said, the more you practice, the luckier you get.
It's true.
Yeah. T.S. Eliot said poetry's outing your inner dialogue. What language is your inner dialogue in?
Probably the language I understand best, English.
But more metaphorically, what form is your inner consciousness in?
Dreams.
Oh, wow. There you go. So, two of my film heroes say, ignore yourself. There's no self expression. Cecil Taylor said, I'm just a vehicle and this stuff just comes through me. Is
Wow.
art making, music making, more self expression or more your vehicle for whatever technologies, environments, and cultures are dominant?
I think it's better if you can get the ego out of it and just
Yeah.
be like like ninjas that we read about or samurais used to be, where they just gave in to the art. The art was it. It wasn't them. It was the art. And they tried to keep self out of it.
Wow. Can art making be egoless?
Not for lead singers.
That's great answer. That was good, Paul. Not for lead singer. This woman told me great art is egoless, but most people go no because they're too brainwashed by the word ego and Freud. Okay, really good. Is perception reality?
It can be, but it's more cloudy now in the 21st century
Yeah,
because you can't believe what you see.
yeah. Well, they used to say seeing is believing. Now they're
Right,
saying
and it used to be that way.
yeah, but now it's believing is seeing. Yeah, whatever you believe is that's all you see. So you got
Yeah,
this, tunnel vision.
they want to keep it all mixed up, man. It hasn't
Yep.
changed. It hasn't
Yeah.
changed. Going back to the thing of keeping people apart when the unions, early unions in New York,
Yeah.
all of that crap that they don't want you to get together. They don't want you all thinking one way. They want to keep it messy. The messier, the better.
Divide and conquer, man. Okay, so Lewis Carroll said, I believe as many as 6 impossible things before breakfast. Have you believed in any impossible things lately?
Oh my God. Well, right now, just getting through this record, it seems like seemed impossible at first, and I'm 6 tracks into it, 4 tracks away from it being done. So you can think it's impossible, but then there's always a way.
Dude, that's you evoked Sun Ra. The impossible attracts me because everything possible has been done and the world didn't change.
This is true.
Okay, Paul, one major element of your music creativity that stayed the same and one major element that's changed in the decades you've been doing this?
Mm. One element that stayed the same. My drive to keep creating stayed the
Yeah.
same. My skill changed
Yeah.
and elevated.
Yeah. Really good. Moshe Feldenkrais works with healing and movement. He says it's literally possible to identify a weakness and incorporate it to become a strength rather than we're normally taught to overcome a weakness. Tell me a weakness you turned into a strength.
My stage fright.
And how did it become a strength?
I learned how to perceive it.
Yeah. Beautiful.
Do you know what? You won't believe where I first started my motivation to do that.
Where?
Fear is the mind killer. Fear is the black death. I shall face my fear and let it pass over me and through me. And when I turn around to see it, all I will see is myself. Dune.
That's Dune
Yep.
in the novel or in
Yeah, it's in
the
the
movie?
novel and it's in the movie.
Wow, that's really good. You taught me something good there. That's very, very influential book. Really good that you learned that. How many years ago did you read it about?
Oh God, 30.
Wow.
But I didn't get that phrase until it came back on me through the movie.
Yeah.
That phrase, I heard it in the movie, and it stuck with me.
You
And
mean the
and then
new?
in the last 5 years or 8 years, I started to implement that into really try to understand what the meaning of that was.
But do you mean the David Lynch Sting version or the new movie Dune?
They was in both.
Oh, but which one hit you?
The last one.
Yeah, okay.
The last one like activated it.
Yeah, activated
So
it.
it was there. It was there. I had it in a book, remembered it. Loved it in the Sting movie.
Yeah.
Then this last one really cemented it.
Wow. It's really good. Fill in the blank, Paul. Anger can be a productive emotion when.
When you're trying to make a point.
What's the most significant difference between men and women, physical aside?
Oh, emotion.
Yeah. There's a line that goes, you create what you resist. Bob Goldthwait, the comedian, morphed it into, you are what you hate. James Joyce said, it's a curious thing how your mind is super saturated in the religion in which you say you disbelieve. And Louis Buñuel nailed it. He said, thank God I'm an atheist. So, so basically, any reactions to this line, you create what you resist. Not you, Paul, but one creates what one resists. Any thoughts on that?
Oh, I think that's true. I think
Yeah.
the more you try to escape certain things, the more it's just presented right in front of you or in your thoughts at night or dreams or whatever. It always comes back around.
Yeah.
You almost have to embrace it.
Yeah. Well, Louis also said, I'm for anyone who seeks the truth, but I part ways when they claim they found it.
That's true.
Yeah.
It's not that simple. And it's
Right.
ever evolving.
Yeah, because a friend goes, everybody goes, that's true. And then one guy goes, that's bullshit. Because if I'm seeking something, it's because I want to find it. So I morphed it into the question, if the journey is more important than the destination, why do we have to name or seek a destination?
Because we need that.
Yeah.
We need that to feel safe. Everybody wants to feel safe. And
Safety.
there is no safety. There's no safety.
You
And
want to
embrace
feel
that.
safe, but you'll never find it because this is one of the
Then it's an
great.
illusion, right? Then
Yeah.
it's an illusion.
Yeah. But this is one of the greats, Eartha Kitt.
Oh,
Truth is a theory that is constantly being disproved. Only lies, it seems, go on forever. So then it morphs right into the question, Paul. Marcel Proust, on what occasion do you lie?
Wow. I try not to do that as much anymore.
Yeah.
On what occasion do I lie? If I lie now, I try to make it so it won't hurt anybody.
Yeah.
Um, wow, I can't think about what would I lie about.
Well, that's haven't you played with Tom Waits?
Yeah, I was
Yeah.
on
Well,
Rain Dog.
check this. He goes, on what occasion do you lie? And Waits goes, I didn't know I needed an occasion. Okay, Paul, how do you find peace of mind?
Through seeking invention.
Wow. It's good. These are 5 quick Alan Watts questions off the top of your head in just a couple words. 1, Who started it all?
Energy.
Are we going to make it?
Jury's out.
Where do we put it?
Where it started.
Who's cleaning it up?
Nobody.
5, is it serious?
No.
Dude, you did the 5 better than most people. They all stumble. Well, what is it? That was really, that was fun, man. So, I know musicians often say, I'm telling, music's great when it tells a story, whether with words or just, an instrumental can run you through. And
Sure.
the great experimental filmmaker narrative of Hollis Frampton said, narrative is born among the animal necessities of the spirit because we're waiting to die. Can you forget to die?
I hope so.
Yeah. Did you get your positiveness from the way your parents raised you or on your own?
On my own.
Really? Wow.
Through experience.
Yeah.
And mistakes.
Yeah. If you were walking down the street today and you met yourself as a 12-year-old, what would you say to your 12-year-old self?
Stop being afraid.
Yeah. Which way should toilet paper come off the roll? Over or under?
Oh, wow. Over.
Yeah.
Over the top.
When I ask people these in front of an audience, that's the one question the audience goes, finally, a question that I like.
Right?
But
Question
it's
that makes sense.
Yeah, because Brad Kay has a picture of the patent and it has the toilet paper going over. It's 100 years old. But
it's the waterfall, man.
Waterfall, but people do 80% people say over. But the people who say under have their reasons.
Are they right or left? The ones who say under or over.
If a publisher was going to release your autobiography off the top of your head, what would the title be?
He overachieved.
They want to scent the glue and the binding. What smell?
Elmer's.
That is good. You have a great sense of humor. What's the function of laughter?
To ease the pain.
Yeah. Because McLuhan loved to quote Steve, what's his name? Steve Allen. Behind every joke, there's a grievance.
Right.
What do you think of that?
Well, I think that's true. I mean, comics can be very sad people. It's very hard to be funny all the time.
Yeah.
When it becomes a job.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I totally agree with that.
But what do you think of people we grew up with Mad Magazine, that was the week that was, and then eventually Harry Shearer, it was comedy news. But now Colbert and Stewart and all that dominates the news. Do you think that comedy news, satirical news more activates or more pacifies us?
Activates.
Really? All right.
Yeah, I do. I think it more activates because I think going back to what I said before is like the reason I like to get the news off the internet, just read it. Is because it's like reading the newspaper. I don't have to hear the guy trying to give me a way to think or a way to perceive it.
Yeah. Utah Phillips says anarchy is making rules for yourself and not other people. Who's entitled to make the rules?
The only ones that I could think of were our forefathers, and we're not doing a very good job at following that.
Yeah.
I mean, they took it upon themselves to make the rules. Whether their intention was to make it as good as they did, it was pretty damn good.
Yeah.
Because I know, like in the '60s, everybody wanted anarchy. Uh, I don't think anarchy would be good, man. Because people always abuse shit. And when you
Yeah.
give them more latitude, you always have somebody that does the wrong thing and abuses it, no matter how good the thing is you invent.
Yeah.
Uh, uh, and you have to have some guidance and some checkpoint somewhere to say, no, you can't do this. Like
Yeah.
now, you really need a backstop. You really need a backstop right now. Right now, we're
It's a
in dangerous waters.
dangerous. It's amazing what you just said because you anticipated this. The word freedom is etymologically broken down the same as what Utah Phillips said. Freedom comes from giving oneself one's own laws.
Yep.
And McLuhan says, how are you to argue with people who insist on sticking their heads in the invisible teeth of technology, calling the whole thing freedom? What does freedom mean to you now?
Well, the best thing about freedom now is I live in California. California is different than the rest of this country now,
Yeah.
and we're it's hard to say. I think it'll get back to where we were. My problem is with our history from that I've noticed over my few years of being on this pill called the earth is that we're afraid of going forward. I mean, a lot of people want to go forward. There's a lot of us who want to go forward and see what's on the other side, right?
Yeah.
But there's a lot of people who don't want to go forward and just want to feel like they don't want to have to listen, they don't want to have to think, they don't want to have to do anything, and it just keeps going in this vicious circle. Goes a little forward, jumps back to that, goes a little forward, jumps back to that. It just keeps going in a circle rather than, breaking through.
Really? Yeah. So, what's the difference between rights and responsibilities?
Responsibilities is what we have to do to live every day. Right is something we're seeking.
Yeah. We got about 10 more minutes. Really been fun, Paul. We touched on this a little, and I'm studying archives, in the act of archiving. And the word comes from, 1400s to keep safe, free from harm, but it's 200 years later, it's what we think of it as records preserved as evidence. But poet Charles Baudelaire said, if you try to make a statement long, deep, and rich, it will age very fast. If you try to own the day you're living, you're talking, it will last forever. I mean, isn't the point of life to live in the moment, be here now? Why do we have to save all this crap? I mean, I'm for libraries and museums, but I also appreciate the futurists who said burn all the libraries and museums. So the question's
Well,
basically, is archiving more innate or invented? And then do you have plans for your own archive?
oh wow. Uh, I I don't have plans for my archive, although I've been lucky that like the internet has preserved a lot of the stuff I've done, and you can find me on there now and get to know about me more than So there's nothing that I would just leave without anybody knowing anything.
Yeah.
I think that archiving and libraries and stuff are kind of important because it gives a guide for the ones who come after us
Yeah.
to see and to learn from, and then maybe not make the same mistakes as we did, or make them as do the good things that we did.
Yeah.
It gives them an option there and a guide to do it. And everybody needs a guide.
Yeah. If a statue is built in your honor, where would you want it displayed and what would it be made of?
Oh my God. I don't think I deserve a statue. What would it be made of?
Yeah.
It'd be, well, I want to say wood. And where would I put it? Be on the front of a sailing ship so that the spray hits me in the face every wave that comes by.
Beautiful. Paul, tell me something good you never had and you never want.
Something good that I've never had and never want?
Yeah, it's good. You never had it, but you never want.
It's weird. We all get into especially entertainment to seek fame. I'd like to be known, but not crazy famous, so that you live on everything I say.
Dude,
Right?
that's yeah. The answer I get the most are fame, money, and heroin.
Definitely not heroin, bro.
Yeah. But
Definitely not heroin.
fame,
Definitely not heroin.
yeah, I know, but fame is one of the answers I get a lot. So that's amazing. If you were in a vat of vomit up to your neck and someone threw
Oh my God. Jerry,
threw a
this is
bag
supposed to be a nice interview, for fuck's sake.
and someone threw a bag of shit at your face, what would you do?
Oh my God. Where am I, in hell? I didn't think I would end up there. I don't know, Jerry.
Okay.
You stumped me. I'm stumped.
Well, we got about 5 more and we're out of here. This has really been fun. What's the cultural shift you see developing today that inspires you?
I think we're at a point where art is going to really come into a renaissance again.
Good.
Of all types: painting, music, writing. Yeah.
That's amazing. Really good. Okay, so what's a question that remains unresolved for you?
What is truth?
Yeah. How has playing music shaped your behavior?
Made me feel alive.
Yeah. This is Thornton Wilder, 1928. Art is confession. Art is the secret told. But art is not only the desire to tell one's secret, it's the desire to tell it and hide it at the same time. You've laid your cards on the table for 80 minutes here, Paul. I really appreciate it. And I'm not insinuating you haven't already answered this. What's it really all about for you?
Keep it in a mystery.
Wow, that is good. That's Auden the poet said the mystery of art is that we don't know if it activates or pacifies us.
Yeah. It's a mystery.
Yeah. Keep it a mystery. Beautiful. Okay, what gives you the most optimism?
Creating gives me the most optimism.
Well, we'll close out with this, Paul. You've played with the greats, man. The Rolling Stones, Tom Waits, Iggy Pop. Who are your like three favorites that really stand out? I know you mentioned the Albert Collins
He's
album.
one of my favorites. One of my
What
favorites for
was the
sure.
name? What was the name of that album?
Cold Snap.
Cold Snap. Give me a couple other two or threes that are just standouts in your illustrious career.
Robert Plant with the Honey Drippers.
My God.
Jay Giles.
Jay.
Who else? I liked working with Debbie Harry too.
Wow.
And Buster was really a character.
Yeah. Rest in peace, man. He just went up to the music union in the sky.
Man, I'm surprised he made it this far.
Oh, really?
I mean, he didn't do like anything hard druggy, but
Yeah.
he drank like a fish.
Yeah.
He drank like Bukowski.
Yeah.
And he
Yeah.
smoked 2 packs a day forever.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, how do you explain your longevity? You eat good, or your lifestyle choice, or what?
My lifestyle choice. I quit. The only thing I did back in the heavy drug days, I mean, I had my little dabbles. I dabbled for a while. Like I couldn't stay into cocaine because you play trumpet, your lips get numb. You have no control. I was on too many big gigs, too many big recordings. I couldn't lose that. I was smart enough to know this is your time.
Yeah.
Like don't throw it away.
Yeah.
And later I quit everything. I quit everything about 5 years ago.
Yeah.
And now, because I smoked weed my whole life, I was high all the time. I was a wake and bake guy. But now I can just access it through here, and I don't need to do it. And I stayed because, you know, I have kids, have some grandkids now, so I want to be around for them.
Yeah, it's beautiful. Yeah. What gives you the most optimism? Did I just ask you that?
Yeah, you did. I answered. Don't ask me again, Jerry. I'm not answering.
Because that's funny. Because the answer I get the most on that one, Paul, is youth. So you go back full circle to your kids, grandkids, you know.
Yeah.
But it's funny because, Paul, the first question I asked is, what's the best thing for a human being? And Wilhelm Reich said the best thing for a human being is another human being. And the last question is, what gives you the most optimism, is what they asked Groucho Marx at the end of his life. And he said, other people. So
that's true. But you know what, Jerry?
Yeah.
We're not old. You know what we are? We're teenagers.
What's it called?
Teenagers.
Scene.
Hey,
you mean
what a great interview. Wow.
You mean making the scene?
No, like teenagers. We're teenagers.
How do you spell scene?
Oh, like we're SEN. SENIOR, seniors. Instead of being seniors, we're teenagers.
Seniors, as in teenagers. I get it. Yeah, that will keep you going longer because we have that innocence, playfulness of teenagers. Yeah. That's really good. I'm going to use that word, teenagers.
Okay, man.
Making the scene with the teenagers. Well, even though I'm going to hit the end broadcast button, Paul, I know I want to thank you. I hope this never ends and we keep talking forever and ever. Thank you so much. This was really fun.
All right. Yeah. Fun for me too, man. Great to see you.
Okay. I'll probably see you around Venice, California again. Thanks, Paul.
Take care. Bye-bye.
All right. Bye.